And a good spiritual morning to you once again. Thanks for joining us today for a quick chat. And of course, our morning cup of coffee.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you for being with us. We hope you're having a wonderful day.
Yes.
We're laughing a little bit this morning. We got a little bit.
A lot of stuff going on.
Morning cough, yeah.
Maybe allergies or just a lot of wonderful pollen in the air.
Yeah.
And so we thought we would reflect back. There's a lot of things happening right now. A few things happening in sports. And when I was doing the videos alone, I would talk about tennis a lot because I played tennis.
Yeah.
Our kids played tennis.
Yeah.
And so we just had the French Open. And so I thought I'd talk a little bit about the French Open because it was special. But don't turn off the video and say, well, I don't care about tennis, so I'm not going to watch this one. It's a metaphor.
There's a takeaway here.
There's something in the spiritual life. We'll get to the metaphor. But for a second, it was a special French Open because they had a special ceremony for Rafael Nadal. And so if you don't know anything about tennis, they have 4 big tournaments, championships every year that they play. And that constitutes a Grand Slam because there's 4 of them. So when you say you get a Grand Slam event, you're talking about the Australian Open, which is in like January. That's summer down under. And then the French Open around this time, then Wimbledon over the summer, then kind of September-ish,
Labor Day,
the U.S. Open.
And so, Rafa's one of the greats. As tennis fans, we really liked him.
Absolutely. And on clay, he's the best ever. French Open is played on clay. He's won that tournament 14 times. Yeah. And you can be a great tennis player and never win on clay, never win the French Open. He's dominated that event. So that when they retired, they had a big ceremony for him on center court. And they had a kind of a plaque of his footprint on center court. They had the other big players there as
Djokovic
part of. They had Federer, Djokovic, and Murray was there. We can argue about. They said the big 4 was all together. I never think it's a big 4. It's a big 3.
Yeah.
I mean, realistically, no offense.
Sorry, Murray.
No offense to England. Murray, you had no business being there.
But they're all good friends.
You really did. Yeah. They played together. They had great matches. That's why they were there. And they retired his footprint there. And so no matter what you think, it's amazing if you can, in tennis, win 1 Grand Slam. Yeah. Right? So he's won that event 14 times. Federer had the record. It was held for many years. Then I remember watching back in the day. And I used to watch way before. I grew up watching tennis. So I would watch Bjorn Borg win so many French Opens. McEnroe, of course, Connors playing. Yvonne Lendl.
And then when we got married and he got me interested in tennis, we watched a lot of Pete Sampras. That was like the Greek guy, right? So we watched Sampras
Pete
from LA.
Sampras broke the record of how many Grand Slams that he won total. I think he ended up with 13.
Which was big at the time.
Which was huge. Like that broke a long-standing record. Yeah. He never won a French Open. He was a serve and volleyer. So Sampras never won a French Open. Yeah. And then all of a sudden you have Federer, Nadal, and now Djokovic. And then Federer came through, who I personally think is the GOAT. I think even though the numbers don't bear it out, I think Federer, he won 20 Grand Slams. And then Nadal and Djokovic being younger, Nadal then passed up after Federer kind of slows down, retires. Nadal now I think has 22, retires. Djokovic I think has 24 now, I want to say.
The good Orthodox player.
Right. So...
but tennis is a unique sport. And we grew up playing it, but in Chicago you had maybe 3 months to play tennis at the park.
Right.
But
I grew up playing it at the park.
tennis is unique in terms of the abilities of those athletes. That's what I find, and I'm not good at tennis.
Right. So you're skipping to the So I just wanted to say before you skip to the application and the take home to talk tennis a little bit, which we have. But now you have the new players playing. So you have the big ones are retiring. Djokovic is still playing, but he's obviously
he's older.
He's going downhill. He's toward the end. He's not in his prime.
Yeah.
But you have these new players coming up in their prime. So we should mention that the final is one of the best finals they talk about ever, and it was Alcaraz playing Sinner. Those are the two.
Which countries are they from?
I believe that's Spain and Italy.
Okay.
I think.
So this is the next generation moving up.
Right. And they're phenomenal. That's number 1 and number 2 now. These are the young guys.
And the final is long.
It's almost 5.5 hours.
So can you imagine, we're talking about sports and we laugh and we talk about different exercises at our age to maintain
the level of
athletic degree for 5.5 hours.
Right.
Yeah.
The quality of tennis. It was a great final. One of the best ever. The quality of tennis, the shot making, it was really amazing. Yeah. Alcaraz ends up winning. Talking about winning, Grand slams.
Yeah.
He's got 5 already.
And he's
22.
He's a young guy.
23,
Nice.
22.
Good for him. Yeah.
Sinner's won some. He's young as well. So the idea of them coming up now, great players, doing really well. We're not going to get into too much.
We
to
bored
that.
you with our tennis.
Right.
Facts,
I feel like Sinner, I feel like he's, they call him a Djokovic 2.0, really just consistent, great shot making, but more aggressive. Sinner. Yeah, it's a tough one. Alcaraz has a Federer vibe to him.
Yeah.
He's smooth. He's good footwork. He gets to the net. He's a shot maker, drop shots. He's got all the shots. That's why I think Federer, to me, is still the GOAT, just because in terms of having every shot and making shots no human should be able to make consistently, that's Federer. I just feel like
it was great to watch him.
Still, even though his numbers, he got passed up by the other two in terms of total numbers for a longevity of career, I still feel like watching someone play and wanting to watch someone play, he's still the GOAT. Yeah. That's still amazing. Anyway, the metaphor, like you're saying, let's talk about the spiritual life and tennis and the spiritual life for a few minutes. Tennis is an incredibly mental sport, right? Because like you said, it's over 5 hours.
And you're alone.
It's not a team sport.
No.
It's just you.
Yep. On the court.
All eyes are on you. You mess
your
up.
coach doesn't get to come out and whisper in your ear.
Right. There's no coaching.
They're up in the stands.
In fact, if they suspect you of coaching, they will penalize you. That happened to Serena Williams, famously or infamously at one of the matches. She got penalized for
looking up in the
for
doing a little
coaching,
sign language,
and that became this real controversial thing. Yeah. Anyway, it's just you, and so you can have all the physical talent, but you can't have a mental lapse. If you have a mental lapse, all of a sudden, and it lasts for like 10 or 15 minutes, you lose a set. Yeah. It's very easy to drop a set. And if you don't, and then it's like, well, now how do I recover from that? I just messed up. I lost the set. You get in your head, you get distracted. If you start playing conservatively, I mean, Alcaraz in the final was saving match points.
Wow.
Like Sinner just couldn't close it out. And there's a lot about the mentality of it. So the metaphor for the spiritual life, oftentimes we sort of think spiritually just in terms of action.
Right.
I'm a good person. I'm not sinning because I'm not physically I'm not stealing I'm not taking from somebody. I'm not hitting somebody. I'm not yelling at somebody.
I'm not acting on my impulses.
I'm not physically doing bad things. And of course, we shouldn't be physically. That's good. But the real battle is happening in the mind. It's a mental battle. Yes. The warfare is unseen, as we say.
Yeah.
It's the battle against temptation. Because what happens is if you can't win the battle of temptation mentally, eventually you're going to see a bad action. And that's kind of where the spiritual life is founded, really. It's founded in what's the mental exercise.
And that's when we talk about unceasing prayer, and you've talked about the Way of the Pilgrim when we were recommending books for the summer reading. When we talk about the Jesus prayer, we talk about those things. The spiritual guides talk about, like you're saying, it's internal. It's the internal dialogue. It's calling upon Christ's name in every thought so that we can control and find peace in our life focused on Christ. But it's in here.
Right, because the thought process in terms of the saints and what they're telling us is you can't. So if you're trying not to sin, that war is being waged mentally. Well, I don't want to say a bad thing. You don't just blurt out bad things. You think them first. So if you are constantly thinking something
for
bad,
days on end,
if someone says something cross to you, not kind, your first inclination is you're going to think about that. You're going to think about, and then you're going to feel. And if you keep thinking about it and keep feeling it, eventually you're going to say something back that you regret. The action follows the thought. But the battle is not in the action. The battle is in the thought. If you can learn to control the thought, the action will not follow. So
it's an inner peace that we need, right?
It's focus. Yeah. And that's in tennis, you have to stay focused. You have a game plan. Like, okay, this is the shot I want to make. When they're in this position, this is where I want to hit it. I'm going cross court here when they're in that position. I'm going up the line when they're in this position. This is where I'm going to serve. When I see them back there, I'm going up the tee. I'm going out wide. Like, you have the game plan. But through the match, you've got a crowd of people. You've got cameras. You've got things
life
happening. You've got calls by the umpire. You've got this interaction. You have to stay focused. So in the spiritual life, in order to not be the person we don't want to be, right? The impatient, the judgmental, the snapping back, the saying things we don't want to say. In order to do that, that battle is happening mentally. We have to stay focused. We have to keep our mind clean and pure and focused. And you can't just think about nothing. It's really hard to just think about nothing.
That's
you say,
a huge point.
In order to stay focused and clear, I'm going to think about nothing. No. And so the saints say, you've got to put Christ in there.
Yeah.
You know, that's where the Jesus prayer comes in. That's where unceasing prayer comes in.
Yes.
If I'm constantly meditating and thinking about Christ, about salvation, about God, and I'm trying to find peace, then when the difficult time comes, I'm going to be ready mentally.
Well, also, when the difficult time comes, when you're under pressure, and we've talked about this before, right? When you squeeze a lemon, you get lemonade. When you squeeze an orange, you get orange juice. This idea that if we can mentally have Christ in our heart, in our thoughts, and live that life in a peace, when we come across a coworker or we come across somebody that, you know,
family member
pushes our buttons, that when we get pressure, all that can come out is peace or silence.
That's what's
this
in there.
idea that we have to have it in us. And the mental strength that I saw in tennis, I didn't realize, and I would make fun of some things like they have their routine, right?
Oh, Nadal.
Like Nadal, you know, he pushes his hair and he pushes it behind his ears. And I thought, this guy's crazy. And you guys would laugh. But if we also have a routine that every time before we walk into the office, if we do our cross, or before we get in the car, if we have road rage, sometimes people like to, whatever we do, if we have that in our life, that's the mental strength that I want to have in me, so that when the pressure comes, only good things come out, only good reactions come out.
The saints say that what is not in the treasury cannot be brought out through the door.
There you go.
In other words, whatever is in there, that's what's going to come out. It's interesting that you mentioned Nadal, right? Or the ritual.
Yeah.
That's interesting about Nadal. Nadal was known for his ritual because he had a way that he always did it. That he was
it's bizarre.
It's kind of OCD if you've ever watched him play. And you watched him play for so many years. And I'm not the biggest Nadal fan, although he's known for focus and grind. Like he wants to grind out.
He's tough.
He's known for just having really controlled ground strokes, staying on the baseline and just hitting the ball back and being fine with waiting for you to mess up. He just gets the ball back. But his ritual, he's got his 2 drink bottles, you know, one water, one something mixed.
He does it enough that we know it.
Positioned in front of his chair in just the right. I mean, you'll watch him go and move them like that, half an inch over. He always walks along the baseline in the same way. He does the same thing right before he's going to serve, right? He wipes, puts the hair. So there's that ritual to sort of maintain the focus. We need that too. And
could you imagine?
Our ritual.
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, sorry.
Or not allow you to cut me off.
Which is more.
Is, you know, well, I'm going to pray. I want to pray. So, but I need the prayer corner. I need the incense. I need the oil, the vigil lamp, some kind of a lamp. I need the prayer book. I need my Bible. I need my, that sort of ritual helps maintain the focus and the order to stay, you know, on top of everything.
Yeah, and could you imagine if your job right now is what really stresses you out, or something that you have to do on a regular basis? Could you imagine if in your car or in the morning every day you did something to allow you to have a little bit more strength to not feel unhinged?
Are you talking to me? No. My job really stresses me out. I think you're talking to me.
All the teachers and all the people out there who work with, who have a bad boss, but like you said, I love the idea of a ritual, a spiritual ritual that allows us to be mentally strong. I think that's if we bring our tennis metaphor back together, the mental strength that tennis players have astounds me. 5 hours
of staying
focused and not letting things derail them to get the championship is incredible. And the saints have so much, and even the readings in the Bible, be patient, be kind, be silent, deal with persecution. Wow. Right. Like there's a lot of that.
No, it's amazing. And a tennis match in a Grand Slam can theoretically go on forever because you have to win by 2 points because of the way they set up the tiebreak in the 5th set. So it's just that idea that it's the same thing. It's a wonderful metaphor. So for us to bring it full circle.
Thanks for putting up with me.
We okay. You're welcome. I don't know what you're talking about. That's usually my line. But no, just that idea of we have to stay mentally focused. You have to stay mentally tough and realize The spiritual warfare, the fight that we're fighting to be good Christians, we're fighting in our minds. We're fighting mentally. We're fighting to not think the sin so we don't commit the act of the sin. And in order to do that, you have to put Christ in there so that when you get squeezed, as you said, like the orange juice comes out. When you're under pressure, Christ is what comes out. And we need the ritual to reinforce that and to help us get closer into Christ and do that each and every day.
Amen.